Hello, everybody. Today we are going to read and maybe skim through Peter Steinberger's two blog posts, Just Talk to It and Shipping at Inference Speed. So both of these articles have been very influential to me over the last 2 to 3 months. The reason for that is it changed the way I see development and how to work with these tools, even beyond development. It has opened my eyes to something that I kind of had a big problem with, which is over engineering, over complicating everything. Because it's so easy to just build things, now I've been building anything that I want all the time. And that is debt that accumulates, right? The more stuff you build, the more you have to take care of it, the more, you're just clouding your judgment and your mental capacity. And I still struggle with this, but we can just go over the article a little bit and see what I find to be very important. And if you're trying to learn how to code in today's age, I would recommend looking at this and reading it and getting a good idea of like what these models are capable of and what they're not. So you could see here that this is the first in the series. It's Just Talk to It. It was released on October 14th, and you could see the curve of agentic programming. So agentic programming, for those who don't know, is using these AI models like Codex, Claude to build and do things. So if we go here, execute, if we go here, we see like this has been my personal experience with these tools. When I started out, I was just giving it like things that I would be stuck at. So I would go to ChatGPT and maybe I would write like I'm stuck at this thing and I can't really do it. I need some help. Like we can do this. I'm stuck at creating a script that can tag all of the items within it. So I pass it an array of JSON, and then it processes that somehow with a very cheap model and tags it in some way, shape, or form. Or maybe we provide tags up front, and then we pass it, the main point being that we need to be able to tag the content and also create a working script that would use a very cheap LLM to do the work that will be accurate. So please go and research this and come back to me with the scope. And I would say that, I would hit that. Let's say I was stuck at this problem, I was trying to do it, and I would wait, and maybe I would go on Twitter, on YouTube. And so what I started doing is instead of having one open, I would have two. And in each one, I would do the same thing, right? So I would come here and maybe there was something that I'm super interested in getting and I would just answer it. And as you can see, it'll make me wait for 20 minutes. And so the way that we scaled it is that we did more tasks, right? We did more orchestration. We tried to do more things at the same time to get like really good results because these things are slow. So once you get past this, like just please fix it, just random tasks, and you start complicating it to get more productivity out of it, you get to the point where you're running 8 agents at the same time, you're doing complex orchestration. So you're trying to set up like these roles and models that like basically spawn other models. I'm not saying it's wrong to do that or that that's not the right approach. I just don't think it's the most sane approach for most people. Anyway, you start chaining agents together. So you're running Claude and then you're running Codex and, one is reviewing the other, one does front end, one does back end, whatever it is that you're trying to do. You have a lot of different slash commands and you can see my Claude. I don't really update my Claude often and I just have so much stuff in here. And they also add so much stuff in here. So it got to a point where I just like didn't even know what's going on anymore, right? It's just so overwhelming. And you're building like super tightly coupled systems because you're not reading the code. Because once you see that these things can build something that works, if you keep prompting them, you stop reading the code. And what that does is it breaks your relationship up with the repo and you don't really know what's going on. So you're just building these things that are getting extremely complicated and they become a throwaway. This is what a lot of people say when they say, I tried agentic coding and it's not for me. It's because either they are building something in a way that is not just like super planned constantly, or maybe the tools aren't for them, but I would say a lot of people just don't know how to build something over time. They don't know how to describe what they're asking for, and they get stuck. So I spent a lot of time in here, maybe like 6 months. I was doing all this kind of stuff. I was building projects to help with this, and those projects became like a burden themselves because then you have to maintain them. But as I read this one, and then I read the next one, I kind of went from here all the way back down to here. So we can talk a bit about like what he says. I'll paraphrase here. This post is probably inspired by the conversations I had at last night's Cloud Code Anonymous. All of the basic ideas still apply. So I won't mention simple things like context management again. The tech stack. So this is a person that works by himself, which I believe a lot of developers moving forward are going to be like solo, self-employed, working on their own projects and contracts. Like I just think that's how it's heading because the capability to do it is there. So his current project is 300,000 lines of code in a React app. That's absolutely massive. That is completely like hard to manage. If you don't have everything perfectly set up, it's going to be very hard to navigate through this repo. So let's go over and search OpenClaw, and we can go to the GitHub and take a look at the project, because I do think that the code for this, like a lot of it is a lot of code, but it seems to me to be good. We'll review it over the skimming through this. So he says that it has like a Chrome extension, a CLI app, a client app, and a mobile app. So he hosts on Vercel. He does there's a PR version of my website in 2 minutes to test. So he has systems to basically create, like automate that part of like deploy the website, test the website, get some form of feedback to the model. He is automating that. Everything else is not automated. So harness and general approach. This is the one thing that I found to be one of the biggest unlocks for me is just using Codex for a lot of the software. Just anything that isn't front-end related, I will just use Codex because it tends to produce reliable code that is more minimal, more modular, more clean, and it follows instructions better, I would say. It's not great at front-end, so you can see here, Claude is chugging away at some like front-end tasks. I use Claude a lot for front-ends. But going back here, he has moved over to Codex completely. He runs 3 to 8 of them in parallel in a terminal grid. So terminal grid looks something like, let's open projects. Where's projects? Here. So this is what a terminal grid would kind of look like. This is a little bit messy, but you would have like 3 different or 10 different terminals open. So I have usually projects as tabs in Z at the top, as you can see, and then I have the terminals within. So if I'm working at a high level, so if I'm working in my projects directory where the model can see all the projects, I will have a bunch of tabs open because it makes it easier to manage. If I'm working within a specific project, like this is a specific project that I want to see the code of, so I want to be able to go in here and click and jump into any code file and see what's going on. I would use the Z window feature because I think that there is value in not even reading the code, but seeing the code. Like what is going on? How many use effects is it? Yeah, so it's just so many use effects. Like let's take this, let's cover it. Let's do new and let us paste this. Please, in this file, app-sidebar.tx, you need to replace all of the use effects with other hooks or systems, right? We do not want to use any use effects if we can afford not to. So take a look at the 2 use effects we have and then come back to me with suggestions as to what we could replace them with. Don't do any coding yet, just come back to me with the plan. And we do that. And we'll go back into the article and continue from there. So I just wanted to say that I have also moved towards this. I have like a little bit of a hybrid approach where I have tabs that are basically an IDE and then tabs that are just window panes. And I find that to be the most productive for me right now. He runs his projects in a root directory as opposed to running them within like the project directory. So let's say you have a project's high level directory with all of your projects in it. He'll run it in the projects directory as opposed to in the specific project that he's trying to work on, which is very interesting. This is the first time I've heard anybody do this. And actually, I think I've heard somebody from Code say this as well. But yes, moving on, he has experimented with work trees. So if you don't know, work trees are a way for you to tell the model, like, hey, look, I need you to make changes while another model is also making changes. And there might be conflicts in the files that you're working on. So instead of working directly in the repo, just make a copy of it inside of it. So they'll just like copy the entire repo inside of the repo, essentially, and then it'll work in there, and then you could patch files later. A lot of people say that this is productive for them. I don't think it is personally, but yeah, I don't know. What do I know? So there are 5 use effect hooks in this file here, and we're going to jump back between working and reading the article, because I do want to show like how my day works as well, and maybe there's something that you can learn from there. So there are 5 use effect hooks in this file. Here's each one of them and what I'd suggest. Stand hydration listener, resize, custom event listeners, sync chat history, fetch chat sessions after hydration. Replacement, use hydrated hook, use media query custom hook, okay, derived const, remove the use state directly, SWR. I think that works, and I would prefer not to see any use states either. So if there is state, we should have it within our App Store state. So let's try to figure that out. However, with the App Store state, we should have like nested essentially state, because we don't want to pull the whole thing every time. We want to just pull whatever we need out of it within like 1 line or 2 lines max. We don't need to like do 5 or 6 assignments. So I've been using voice a lot because that would have taken me a few minutes to write. Now it takes me like 30 seconds to say. It has issues. So if you're trying to tell it like where a file is on your machine, you can't really, like, you can say it, but that doesn't mean that the model that is listening is going to be able to turn it into a file path. So it can confuse the larger model if you're talking about like very specific things. And sorry about that, I needed a drink. So he has completely moved over to Codex, and he has tried working with work trees, but has kept going back to just working within his projects directory and just doing it like within a window pane. I think that makes sense. I don't know if it makes sense to just stop looking at the code entirely. I don't know if that's what he does, but he does say he looks at the code during PRs. So let's continue reading. His agents do Git atomic commits themselves in order to maintain a mostly clean commit history. I iterate on a lot of my agent files. This makes Git ops sharper, so each agent commits exactly the files it edited. So what's great about this, and I've also started doing this recently, is Codex hates when you have if you start Codex in a directory that has like uncommitted history, it's just not going to be happy. Like it'll complain about it, it'll stop working until you either tell it to like commit it or whatever. Also, they tend to make a lot of changes, and they tend to work over turns, right? So you're going back and forth with them. And if you can basically save each and every single snapshot within your Git history, not just within Claude Code or within Codex, then you're going to save yourself a lot of headaches. And I have not even thought about doing this, to be honest, until recently, because it's become a real problem. So he mentions like the difference between Claude and Codex. Both of these models are really good. I think both of them can do really great things, and they are very complementary in many ways. Codex is really good at deep engineering tasks, really complicated problem solving, a lot of like niche technical topics. Claude Code is good at like being a good assistant, so it's much more pleasant to talk to. I think their models have been getting closer to that deep reasoning that we expect from Codex, but it's still slow. I also think that the harness itself has a lot of issues in that it's slow. It consumes a lot of memory. It's getting better. It's definitely getting better, but it's also very cramped. Like there's just so much stuff in it. And when I add my own stuff, it just becomes like unmanageable. So he talks about what model that he uses. He says that he uses he basically does everything with GPT-5 Codex on mid settings. Recently, he said that he's changed to high. So there's low, medium, high, and then extra high. So I've been using extra high personally for everything Codex related, because whenever I pull out Codex, it's mostly on very difficult problems. Whenever I pull out Claude Code, it's to do these like very quick changes or like fixes that are shallow. The blast radius. So whenever I work, I think about the blast radius. I didn't come up with the term. I do love it though. When I think of a change, I have a pretty good feeling about how long it'll take and how many files it will touch. I can throw my many small bombs at my code base, or one fat man and a few small ones. If you throw multiple large bombs, it'll be impossible to do isolated commits, much harder to reset if something goes wrong. This is also a good indicator while I watch my agents. If something takes longer than I anticipate, I just hit escape and ask what's the status to get a status update, and then either help the model to find the right direction, abort, or continue. Don't be afraid of stopping models midway. File changes are atomic and they are really good at picking up where they stop. When I am unsure about the impact I use, give me a few options before making changes to gouge it. So what he's saying here is that you can run like either, let's say you run Opus working on a very large task, like maybe a project that consists of multiple tasks, and then spawning like little Sonnet instances like in another terminal, and letting them work on very specific things to make progress in both like larger, higher level changes that need to happen, like new features, debugging, refactoring, and then lower level optimizations that need to happen. And I think I tend to work like this too. I mostly stick to one per project. So if we go back to my code editor, we can see here that I'm running one. I'll have like a front end somewhere. I will have, this is the browser AI one. And let's see. They said no type errors in service, all fixes applied, filtered storage on change. Okay, so I need you to build this for both Firefox and Chrome. So get the zips ready so that I can update the packages. And then I need you to go investigate and then just build it out yourself. I don't want to have to like get you anything. Just figure out how you can automate like publishing to the app stores, to the Chrome stores, right? And to the Firefox store. If you need a browser, you can open one and you can jump in and you can go from there. And so the script, I'll enable it. Like, I don't know. Figure it out. I don't have time for this. All right, we will close this out and we will jump back into VLM Studio. So they're saying that they will do, here's the refined plan with everything moving forward. And I tend to watch the context a lot. So we have 71% remaining, so I think it's going to perform pretty well, and we can give it a set of instructions. All right, let's go and do it. I think this is a good plan. And we can go over to QuantForge. So this is a Codex instance. It's got it set up. Let's do, just install the smallest MOE that we could find that has a shared expert that you can find on Hugging Face. Install it so that we can just really quickly test this out and open it in my Firefox as a new tab, like the UI that I can interact with. And we can go back here. So why not work trees? I run one dev server. I evolve, as I evolve my project, I click through it and test multiple changes at once. Having a tree branch per change would make this significantly slower. Spawning multiple dev servers would quickly get annoying. So I have limitations of Twitter. So I can only register some domains for callbacks. What about Claude Code? I used to love Claude Code. These days, I can't stand it anymore, even though Codex is a fan. It's language that absolutely writes the 100% production ready messages while tests fail. I just can't anymore. Codex is more like the introverted engineer that chugs along and just gets stuff done. It reads much more files before starting work, so even small prompts usually do exactly what I want. There's broad consensus in my timeline that Codex is the way to go. I would say this is true for people that are working on larger projects, or people that are working on many, many projects, or people that have a lot more like technical experience. And the reason I say this is true is if you think about the way Claude works and like what people say about it and what they like about it is very interactive. And so if you are in the loop where you are working on your first like 10 projects, right? First 10 projects in your career, it's going to be easy for you to focus on one project at a time. You're probably not as pressured and you don't have as many ideas that you can just like easily pursue. So if you're in that state, like you're just kind of onboarding onto this, using Claude Code is the easier option. Claude is more pleasant to talk to. It uses a lot of like ASCII charts and graphs and diagrams and Markdown. It uses a lot of like visual elements in its outputs. We can even take a look back here. So look at just how it's just text. It's just blocks of text with Codex. If we go back to VLM Studio and we try to find the outputs of Claude, look at how much color it uses and like how much it tries to make it visually appealing to look at its outputs. And I think that this is a model thing, not a harness thing, right? Like this is the model itself outputting good ASCII and good Markdown. So it's just easier for somebody that doesn't have that experience or doesn't have the types of problems that require like deep reasoning to pick up Codex, to pick up a Claude Code, or if they're working on front ends, especially because Claude is pretty good at front end. It's like in the top two, I would say. Claude and Kimi are the best at front end, and so Claude is just the better option. But if you're working the way that this guy's working, like his GitHub is insane. We could go Pete. And I follow his GitHub, and I have used almost all like of his stuff, right? Like maybe not all of it. Like the top 10 things on here, I have. I've set up this one. What is it called? This shows me like my sessions, how much I've used for my Codex versus, and you can see here is the difference between like how much I use Codex and how much I use Claude. If we go, oh, I need to close this. Let's close this. And let's go here. So you can see here that I use less weekly Claude than I use weekly Codex, and I'm paying more for Codex. So I'm really using it a lot at these days. Today I've used 72 million tokens already, and it's only 1:15 p.m. Last 30 days is 296, 3.5 billion tokens. And I feel like that's pretty low actually for me. But he talks about the model, and I tend to agree with him here. It's going to be good. I'm going to skim over a lot of this because I have to go in a bit, but I want to just mention the most important things that have influenced me and why I think that this is good. While I do that, let's go make a video. Not a video, sorry. Let's go make a thumbnail. T3 Chat is the app by Theo. I think it has like the best thumbnail system that I've seen. So I will go here and I'm trying to get this. And we're going to try to title our thumbnails. So what is this? Is this, okay, upgrade to Premiere. What is Premiere? Premiere is what? All right, let's do it. Let's go. Confirm, and we can, hopefully they have enough money in the card. But anyway, the reason I'm showing this is I think I really like T3 Chat. I really like the way it works. It creates YouTube thumbnails. You would think that the Google one would create, like, their app does not do this well. I'll get into it in a minute. So your job create a single blah, blah, blah inputs. I use all of them. Working title. So I think working title would be just talk to it. the best advice for agentic coding. Or let's just do just talk to it. I don't want to use his name. Let's just do just talk to it. Hook promises in one sentence. How to become a pro at agentic coding from the best agentic coder. Or actually, no, that wouldn't work. So let's try how to become a pro at agentic coding. Okay, and then we have this. We're going to use Nano Banana 2. We want 16:9, and we want high resolution, and I want to go then. All right, we don't need to make them super fancy as long as they work. So I have a prompt for this that I use, I reuse over and over. The reason I'm building this out is because I need to, post a video. I need a thumbnail. Let's see. I don't want to open this right now. We can go back to the article. Thanks for being patient about that. So some things that make you more efficient. One is that you get more context. So I think GPT 5.3 Codex has 400,000 tokens, and that is a very considerable amount. It also uses less stuff for its system prompt. At least I think so. I'm gonna withhold that. I don't know. I could be wrong. With Claude, you get 156K because they preserve some for the compaction, 20%, and then their system prompt is like 10,000 or 14,000 tokens, maybe. Again, I'm not 100% sure. This is just from memory. OpenAI, the way like the OpenAI models work, like Codex, is it'll just read a ton of files. It'll just like sit there reading all day, just reading. And that could be good. Okay, we have QuantForge, we have a little model, Quen 1.5, and we will settings. I don't know how that, I don't know. This is a model opening it up to test it out. So going back, you get less context, and that means you're compacting more often. And during every compaction, you lose quality. Like you lose quality of output. So having a longer context window helps. And then the GPT models tend to be the best at like long context communication. Like you could just talk to them for hours, and they are fully coherent. And I think that that's very like unique to them. Codex, the actual CLI tool, performs better than Claude Code because it's written in Rust, and I've never had it crash on me or have like any memory leaks. This isn't a model issue per se, but it is like from a developer experience perspective, it is a little bit problematic. Again, it is a lot better for a lot of people if you're doing front end or you find the model to be pleasant. So why not other harnesses? I'm going to skip that part. I don't fully agree with it, but basically what he says is that he uses the Codex harness itself, and I use it the most. It's my most used. He uses it because basically the model provider, so OpenAI, has full vertical integration. So they're going to be able to make the models perform the best within their harness. That's the claim. I don't think that that's true. And I think that there is space for other harnesses. People like style, right? Like people buy clothes that are extremely expensive for no reason other than they like the style of it. So let's go. We're going to continue. What about open model? I keep an eye on Kimi's, so China's open models. It's impressive how quickly they catch up. GLM 4.6 and Kimi 2.1 are strong contenders that slowly reach Sonnet 3.7 quality. I don't recommend them as daily drivers, though. The benchmark only tells half the story. IMO agentic engineering moved from this is crap to this is good around May with the release of Sonnet 4. And we hit an even bigger leap from good to this is amazing with GPT-5 Codex. I tend to agree with him in terms of like the quality, like even a little bit of intelligence is enough to make you much more productive. And unfortunately, that's a reality. But these models like GLM5, Minimax M2.5, and Kimi 2.5 are state of the art. Like they are good enough, and they're better in some things than Codex would be. So I really like Minimax is much faster. The other one, what's it called? Kimi is better at like front end design by a long shot. It's more fun to talk to. GLM is better at like DevOps type deals. I've used it for that type of work a lot, and I found it to be very reliable. So it doesn't say the full picture, but generally Codex is better, and Claude is better than all the other models. Generally speaking, if you're trying to use it for like 3D printing, it's one of the few that can actually do 3D printing. As an example. So plan mode. This is another one that I don't agree with. He says that he doesn't use plan mode and that he usually like basically discusses the plan and like exports it as a file. That's probably the way to go. But Claude Code now has plugins, so yeah, plugins I don't use. Sub agents I really don't use either anymore. I used to. The models use them sometimes, but it is not a real issue for me. So just talk to it. Let's go back. Web-based agents, the agentic journey. I will jump over to MCPs and tools. So I think you guys know this. Tools and MCPs are good for the use case that they're trying to solve. As a general tool, they're not great. If you're stuffing MCPs and all this stuff into your context for no reason, like your model probably doesn't need to know about Supabase if you're working on a front-end task, right? Like a design task. So keeping away from that is probably the way to go. So spec-driven development. This is something that I also 100% agree with. I used to do spec-driven development, so I would have like folders with all of the like different specs and tasks. And I still do that sometimes for refactoring, but the models are just good enough now. They're just good enough that you can tell them with just like one plan file and they're good to go. There was something here that he said that I think is super important. He spends 20% of his time refactoring. I spend probably 40 because I just don't have it as well tuned as he does, or maybe it's just, maybe because, I don't know, maybe it's a lack of experience, but I'm refactoring like 30 to 40% of the time. So what that looks like is I will work for 3 days on new stuff, and then I will refactor for 2 days. And refactoring is just like, look at the repo and then think, okay, today I deleted like a few subdirectories. For example, there was one called desktop, and in it there were just scripts. So I moved the scripts into here, and I deleted the desktops one. The controller needed to be updated to remove like some imports that like weren't there. So I do a lot of this cleaning up, and I do them in chunks of like 2 days. So I'll just focus on that for 2 days. All right. So what other tricks? How does agents Claude? And we're going to go to the next one, shipping at inference speed, because I think this is the real meat of the two. And if you're doing agentic coding, I think this is important for you to read. It's a very interesting way to look at things. So he's talking about Codex versus Opus. I'm writing this here while Codex crunches through a huge multi-hour refactor and unslops older crimes of Opus 4. People on Twitter often ask me what's the big difference between Opus and Codex and why it even matters, because the benchmarks are so close. I know it's getting harder and harder to trust benchmarks. You need to try both to really understand. Whatever OpenAI did in post-training, Codex has been trained to read lots of code before starting. Sometimes it just silently reads code for 10 to 15 minutes. I've seen it read code for an hour or two. On one hand, that's annoying. On the other hand, that's amazing because it greatly increases the chance that it fixes the right thing. Opus, on the other hand, is much more eager. Great for smaller edits. I fully agree with this. Not so good on large features or refactors. I fully agree on this. It often doesn't read the whole file or misses parts and then delivers inefficient outcomes or misses something. I noticed that even though Codex takes 4x longer than Opus for comparable tasks, I'm often faster because I have to go back and fix and fix and fix. And I fully agree with this too. Instead of plan mode, I start a conversation with the model, ask a question, let it Google, export code, create a plan together, and when I'm happy, I write build or write plan to docs, MD, and build. Plan mode feels like a hack that was necessary for older generations of models. I still don't think that that's true because having a plan is about like mental alignment between you and the model more than, but what he's saying is a plan to a certain degree. Like that's a plan. It's just not like a structured way where the model is interviewing you. Oracle, I don't think enough people understand that this is a genius. This model here is a genius. It is genius level. If you talk to it, it is able to solve like almost anything. I've given it tasks that are like extremely complicated. It has worked for 84 minutes and it has read research papers of things that were released like 2 weeks ago. And it gives me working suggestions, working scopes, working like demos that I can run on my GPUs, for example. I was able to get like the DSA type architecture built out on 3090s, just 10 times slower. And I've not had the time to like even try to like clean it up or fix it. And I feel like I'm out of my depth. But the point that I was able to do it at all when this is not something that is supported by any software from, as far as I understand, is impressive. if you go and check my GitHub, like the amount of stuff that I've been able to build for larger projects is insane using this GPT 5.2 Pro. So this is what he's talking about, Oracle. It's the 5.2 Pro series of models. There's almost never a point where I've talked to it and I've felt like this is wrong. Okay, so his workflow. He usually runs multiple projects at the same time, depending on the complexity. He has everything running in Ghosty, like in panes. He will talk to the models, and then when he has a new idea, he'll open a new pane. He uses voice mode, and he said that he gets, like his voice, he loses his voice sometimes because of it. I've experienced this because I've used voice mode a lot, as you can see here. I basically never revert or use checkpointing, so he just basically, if he runs into a problem, instead of going back and then rebuilding, he'll just like fix the problem later on. He commits to main. He doesn't do any branching. He doesn't do any PRs. He says that this wouldn't work for a team, and he's definitely right. He doesn't check past sessions, always new sessions, tooling and infrastructure. So he still uses the same model. He still uses the same tool. He uses multiple Macs so that he can isolate things. I've also started doing this because if you're letting them automate things, they're just like constantly opening up browser tabs. Now I'm using a Mac Studio and so like a Mac Mini and a MacBook, and then the Linux machine, and I just like let them run stuff over there as opposed to on my like control machine. He says his go-to model is GPT 5.2 Codex. Mine is 5.3 Codex now on extra high. His config basically changes the way that they, just like makes something specific about how to compact, how much to reserve, what kind of, you had to do this with search. This allows the model to read more in one go. The default bits are small. And so I have followed practically all of this advice. And at this point, I am producing at a rate that I don't think I have ever produced. If we take a look at, so you can just see here, right? Sometime in August, the models, sometime in July is when the model started getting better, June, July. In August, I started to code more. I've been coding for like, 6-7 years now. October, it is getting, November is when we got, I think, Opus 4.5. And from there, it's just been all day, every day. And you can see the amount of commits that I'm doing versus pull requests or reviews. 92 commits in a month, 92 commits in a month. Like this is just so much stuff that I've done. Issues that I open, pull requests that I open. And I am really, really happy with my performance. I think that the performance has been great. People are using my stuff more than ever. So Parchi is the browser extension. VLM Studio is the way to control. I've contributed to the Minimax repo for their agent. I've done a lot of work on a whole bunch of different projects. The open code, so the Cerebrus CLI repo. It's been great. And I think that this is the way to go. So hopefully this is helpful to you. I meant this as an educational video. I will see you guys in the next one. And please subscribe if you haven't yet.